In this lesson, we're going to be looking at a concept that affects all of mathematics, which is the order we must apply operations when we're working things out. Now, the main thing we'll need to know for this is the basic operation, so plus, minus, times, and divide. So as long as you can add and you can subtract, if you can multiply, and knowing your times tables is extremely helpful. And if you can divide, and of course knowing your times tables helps with division as well. If you can do all those things, regardless of how good you are at it, if you can do them, then you'll be able to be fine with this lesson. Now, a word that is often used to remember the order of operations is BODMAS. You may also know it as BIDMAS or BOMDAS. It's got a couple of different options there. They all mean the same thing. And I use BODMAS because that's what I always learned. And so B stands for brackets. So if there's ever brackets in something, then you always work it out first. The next one is powers of. So that stands of there, which is for powers. And that refers to these sorts of ones here where it's squared. You may not be too familiar with those yet. Don't worry. They won't actually appear much in this lesson at all. We'll do them later in the topic. This is also sometimes an I, so they call it BIDMAS. The reason being this is called an index number, and so some people are used to referring to them as indices or indexes, and so they call it BIDMAS. But however you remember, it's fine as long as you know it goes in there. The D stands for division, of course, and then you've got multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So if we were to look at this big long expression here and say what goes first, then we just have a look down our list and see which one's there. We got a plus, we got another plus, we got times, and we got brackets. And so the brackets is right up the top. I would do the brackets first. In the next one, we have a look there. We've got a multiplication, we got an addition, and up here we got a squared, which is a power of. Which one's highest on our list? It's the powers of. So I'd have to do the power of first. And in this one here, I've only got addition and I've got a division. Which one goes first? Well, the division is higher than addition, so I would have to work out the division first. That's the idea. We're looking at the order in which to work things out first. One key thing when doing our questions here is we're going to go down the page and we're only going to do one operation at a time. So if we had a look at this one here, 5 times 2 plus 3, first, which one do I do first, times or addition? I do times. Multiplication comes before addition. And so that means I go 5 times 2. Now I don't just cross it out and write a 10 above it. You may have learned it that way, but that's actually becomes a really messy way of doing things when the questions get more complex. So what we do is instead we write the 10 underneath. We go 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, I've done that. See this plus 3? Remember, we didn't use that yet, did we? So we just write it down underneath. And so all I've done is turn 5 times 2 into 10, and I've just copied the plus 3 down. And you get used to doing that. You've got to do it quite a lot in mathematics, especially the more complicated it gets. And then 10 plus 3, that's 13. Once again, underneath, I go down the page, not going across at all, always down the page. So that one is equal to 13. Let's take a quick look at another one, seeing that in action again. So 7 minus 5 would have to go first because brackets go first. And so 7 minus 5 is 2. Now, so what I'm going to do, notice I didn't use the 4 there. And so I write down equals 4. I didn't use that. And then I had, this was 2 in the brackets, so I'm going to write down the plus 2 because I'm changing that 7 minus 5 into 2. I don't need to write the brackets anymore. Once you've worked brackets out, you don't need to write them down. So plus 2, and then I didn't use that times 3, so I just write down times 3. And now we forget that top line there. We've dealt with that. Now let's look at the next line. What do I work out from here? Let's see, I'll work out times first before plus, just like we did above here. So 2 times 3 is 6. So I'm going to write down this 4 because I'm not using the 4. So I just write down the 4, haven't used that yet. And then I worked out that was 6, so plus 6. And then 4 plus 6 is equal to 10. And so there we go, going down the page, one operation at a time. Few other quick things. When you've got a multiplication and a division here, technically it says to do division before multiplication, doesn't it? but I can't do 6 divided by 9. Well, I can, but it's complicated. It's not a whole number. But fortunately, division and multiplication can actually be done in either order. That's why some people remember it as BOMDAS. They swap these guys around and they have multiplication first, then division. I think it's better just to remember that they can be done in either order. They're pretty much linked there. And so I just go left to right. What's 3 times 6? That's 18. So I write down the equals 18, and I haven't used the divide by 9, so I just write it down. 18 divided by 9, now I can just work that out. Going down the page still is 2. Now addition and subtraction is the same idea. They are linked as well. So you just do them left to right. If there's only additions and subtractions left, just go left to right. So 7 minus 4 is 3, and so I can write that down. I haven't used the plus 2 yet, so I just write it down. And 3 plus 2 is 5, and so that's my final answer there. And so for division and multiplication, work left to right, do exactly the same for addition and subtraction. So just remember these guys are linked and these guys are linked. Now sometimes you can have brackets within brackets, and when that happens we work out the innermost ones first. So notice here I've got a set of brackets here, the round ones, and another set of brackets, the square ones. The round are inside the square, so I do the round ones first. And so I'd work out 3 times 5, which is 8. So I haven't touched the square bracket, so I'm going to write that down. I just turned this 3 times 5 bracket, sorry, 3 plus 5 bracket into 8, so I'll write that down, and I haven't used any of the rest of it yet. So I'm just going to write it all down like that. So the only thing that happened is this 3 plus 5 in brackets turned into that 8. And now I can work out the 8 times 3 because it's still brackets there, doesn't matter that they're square brackets. 8 times 3 is 24, so I can write it down. Haven't used the divide by 12 yet, write that down, and then 24 divided by 12 is 2. So we do our innermost ones first and work outwards. It's worth noting that there is no difference between the brackets. You could have square, these squiggly ones, and these round ones. They all mean the same thing when we're talking in the context of these sorts of questions. Okay, so sometimes you'll learn much later on in future years that you can use square brackets for something different in maths. Same with these squiggly brackets. But for these questions, they all mean the same thing. So that means that in this question, see how the round is in the middle? Then we do the round brackets first because they're innermost. If I swapped those around, I'd now do the square brackets first. I'd still work out the 3 plus 5 first because they're the innermost ones. So it doesn't matter what shape they are, that doesn't tell you the order. It's just which ones are inside other brackets. In fact, you don't even need to have them different. This question is perfectly fine. I'd work out the 3 plus 5 first. In fact, normally when you see brackets within brackets, they're actually all going to be round brackets. So don't get used to the idea of do I do the square first or the round first. That has nothing to do with it. It's just whichever brackets are in the middle. So let's make sure we're right with it with some quick examples. And so we're going to use our order of operations to find the answer to this question here. The very first thing you do is you write down the question, the whole question. Don't work anything out yet. And then the next thing you do is you work out what operation will go first. Now there's a divide, a plus, and a times. And so division, multiplication, addition. Remember, you can do division or multiplication in either order, but the division comes first here. So we'll do this division first. 15 divided by 3 is 5, so I write down equals 5. I haven't used any of the rest of it yet, the plus 2 times 5, just write it all down. And now remember, forget about the first line, just focus on the next line. What do I do next, plus or times? Once you know what it is, it's times. You go 2 times 5 is 10, so I didn't use 5 and plus there, the 5 there. I worked out that 2 times 5 is 10, so I write down plus 10, and then 5 plus 10 can now be worked out. It equals 15. Remember, down the page, no crossing things out, no messiness. So another one here, we're again going to start by writing out the question we're given here. So just write it out in full, no working anything out yet. Now here we have to work out the brackets first. Now notice the brackets here cover quite a bit here. We've got to work all of this out first. So forget about the 10 divided by. That's not going to change. In fact, I'm just going to write that straight down. I know I'm not dealing with that yet, so I'm just going to write it down. Now in here, what do I have to work out first? The minus or the times? And so we know we're working within the brackets. So based on what's in the brackets, what has to go first, the minus or the times? And of course the times has to go before the minus, and so I'm going to be working out 2 times 2. So I can work out my bracket 6 minus. I can just write that down because I'm not using that. And 2 times 2 is 4, so now I can finish it off. I can change that to 4, write my closing bracket. Now I forget about that line there, and I focus on this one. There's still brackets, so that's got to go first. That's nice and easy. 6 minus 4 is 2. So I write my 10 divided by, because I'm not using that, and then I write my 2, because it's 6 minus 4. 10 divided by 2 is 8. I've now, so it's not, of course not, it's 5, silly me. I've now reached the end of the question, and so that's it. One nice clear line at a time. And the next one, let's do a question that has got multiple brackets in it. So let's start by writing it all down. Always the first step, no working out anything yet. And then what do I do first? Well, I do the innermost brackets first. So 12 divided by 4 goes first. And so remember, it doesn't matter if they're round or square brackets, the innermost ones. So all this, see this 2 plus 8 minus, I'm not using any of that, so I'm just going to write it all down. It's not what I'm currently working out. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So I write down the 3, and then I can write down the square bracket. Remember, I don't worry about the round brackets because I've now worked those out. They don't need to be written down anymore. They'd only be around the 3 anyway, which doesn't help. So now I go on, and I've still got brackets, so I work these out next. So 8 minus 3, that is equal to 5. So 2 can be written down, and then just plus 5. And then finally I can work out 2 plus 5, which is 7. So once again, one step at a time, nice and neat. So you'll go with some practice questions now. Remember to try and make it nice and neat, one line at a time, showing all the working. Remember to write out the full question first before you've even worked anything out. And remember to pause the video. Okay, there's the solution with all the working that we should have shown. Alright, in the first one I started by writing down the entire question, and then I just had to work out what goes first. I've got a plus, a times, and a divide. And so the times and divide both go before the plus, and because I can do them in either order, I start with the one on the left. So 5 times 4 is 20, so I changed the 5 times 4 into 20, wrote down everything exactly as it is. And then I went, well, I've got to do the divide next, so 20 divided by 10 is 2, so I wrote that down, and the 8, I haven't changed that yet, so I just wrote it down, copied it straight down. And 8 plus 2 is 10, got me to my final answer. So one step at a time there. In the second one, I wrote down the entire question to start with, and then I had to have a look here and see there's a couple of things inside these innermost brackets. So these have all got to go first. So we're dealing in this bracket here. Which goes first, the plus or the times? And it's the times. So I changed the 2 times 6 into 12. Notice that's the only thing I've changed in the entire question. Everything else just got written straight down. So now 3 plus 12 would have to go next because that's in the innermost bracket still. So 3 plus 12 is 15. I wrote it down. Everything else, if you look carefully, everything else is exactly the same. The divide by 5 times 7, divide by 5 times 7, exactly the same. 15 divided by 5 must go next because that's still in brackets, and so that is 3, so I wrote down the 3, and the poor times 7 still hasn't got to go yet, but finally I can do 3 times 7 as my last thing to get 21. So here's some more practice questions. If you need to give them another go, remember to pause the video. And there's the solutions to those ones. Hopefully you got them right. If not, remember to get some extra help. And that's the end of this lesson.